I'm Tom, and here tonight I'm going to show you the method that I use to sharpen just about any production sword made. I've got here a katana blade and a medieval blade. And I'll show you how you can use the same technique to take care of both. On this sword, we've got a bow heel, which is the groove, alright? What we're going to be dealing with is the G, okay? You can see that I've written G on the sword. Right, you can see that, right? Right, you can see that, okay. That part is the G. From the bottom of the bow heel, or the fuller, down to the cutting edge, or from the shinogi line down to the edge, the cutting edge, that is the G. That is the face of the blade, and that's the part of the blade that we're going to be working tonight, okay? Now if you notice, I've already done some work on this sword. You can see though that it's got the same thing. You got a big fuller, and you've got a sloped edge that goes from this ridge line here all the way down to the cutting edge. If your sword is scratched up, either from use, or if it's got a fake hammer on it that you don't like, or there's a scar, a scratch, or a blemish, or something you don't like, or rust, this same technique will get rid of all of that and will turn your blade into something pretty again. First thing you'll notice is that these blades are bare, alright? All the furniture has been taken off, okay? Easiest way to do things. Okay, so what to use? Well, it depends on how much work you need to do. If your blade is like this one is right now, and just wants a little bit of a polish to buff it up, make it nice looking, and bring out that real crisp, sharp paper cutting edge, then what you're going to want to use, what I use, sandpaper. I use 3M. It's an automotive grade, wet, dry sandpaper. This is 400 grit. That's usually where I start. Or, the other thing I like to use, because I like to work in a way that is similar to traditional polishing and sharpening, and by traditional I mean more along the lines of the Japanese style, is to take that sandpaper and slap it down on this big block of wood with some tape underneath it so it doesn't move. I gotta get new tape. And then work the sword over this as if this sandpaper were a sharpening stone. Alright? I find that moving the sword across the stone, for me, yields better results, better control, and is more uniform. Because in the end, you want your work to be uniform. You want to move everything the same direction. You want all your scratches to go the same way. This will make a nicely polished sword and a sharper edge. Okay, so you're going to sharpen this katana. You got your G. Okay, you're going to take that G and you're going to lay it flat on your paper. Lift the back of the blade, or the mune, up ever so slightly, because you don't want to grind down the shinogi, or the bottom, this ridge here along the bottom of the bow heel. Okay? Then you start working it like this. Straight back and forth, perpendicular to the blade, 400 grit. Okay? That's your first step. You got to remove major flaws, things like that. Alright? To exaggerate this a little bit, as you're going this way, you can let your hands float a little bit like this. Okay? This is a big exaggeration, alright? You just do it a teeny little bit. In fact, what I would suggest, if you've never done it before, if this is your first time, is lay it on there flat, lift the back up a little bit, and work back and forth to get the hang of it, and then flip it over and look at it. What you're going to see is a pattern of scratches going perpendicular to the blade down your G. Alright? If the scratch goes all the way from your cutting edge all the way up to just underneath your center, your ridge there, and stops, that's perfect. More often than not, though, what you'll see is it wavers a bit, it wanders. You get a scratch pattern, more like that. That's okay. You just have to go back over these spots here and these spots here, apply a little pressure with your thumbs on the opposite side, and work it until you look over it and it looks like that. Okay? That's the first step. That's what you want to do. Alright? Take a little bit of household 3-in-1 oil and put it right on your paper. Like that. Put your sword on. Lift your manet just a little bit. Okay? And you work it like that. It's a good idea to have a towel or a piece of leather or something to wrap around the blade to protect your hand, especially as you get later on in the process, because this is going to be sharp and you can cut yourself pretty easy. Alright? So you work it this way. You'll notice that I'm pulling the blade towards me and not working it back and forth. Okay? That's because when you work with paper, no matter how well you tape it down, the paper bends, and as your sword goes over it, it's going to tend to do that, right? So if you push your sword across this direction with the cutting edge forward, the direction it would cut, you're going to dull that edge just a little bit. So always pull it toward you or away from you if you got the manet this way. Always pull it towards the back, the opposite direction of cutting. That way it'll be like stropping your blade, and it'll make it sharper and sharper as you polish. So, the first grit, you work in a straight line this way. You just work all down your blade until the whole blade is covered. Okay? Then, of course, you flip it over and you do the other side. The idea of this is, the most important thing at this point is that when you make these scratches across your blade, you want to replace any scratch that was on the blade previously, any blemish, any mar, anything that was on the blade that you want gone needs to be replaced with these nice, even, perpendicular scratches. Okay? Once you've done that, once you've got to the point where every single scratch is pulled out, then you change up to the next grit. For me, I go from 400 to 800. And I work diagonally. Okay? Still pulling away from the edge so I don't dull it. Okay? The reason you change the direction is very simple. The first time you did it, you made scratches this way, okay? Now this time, you're making scratches this way, and one will replace the other. The object, like I said, is to get rid of all the evidence of the previous, damage. And the when you do the 400 grit, that's your base. You're getting rid of all the damage that was on the blade. Well, when you do the 800 grit, previous damage is the 400 grit. So you want to replace all the perpendicular lines with diagonal lines. Then when you go to 1000 grit, instead of doing them this way, you do it diagonally this way. That way you can tell where you've been, you can tell if you've missed anything. Okay? And then finally, after you do 1000 diagonally, I like to do another pass with 1000 this way. And then after that I do a 2000, same direction. This direction on your blade will give you the prettiest polish, and it will look the nicest. A 2000 grit is a pretty high polish.